Brahma. Geography, the mapping system. Srimanacharya Jayesh Bhagwanji Chitroda. Brahma. The logic of the universe. The Indian Hindu Khumbars believe that the universe was not created and has always existed and is an infinite space where many things happen. Therefore, a modern map, picture or diagram of the universe is nothing more than a cluster of substances or objects within a given range that creates a grouping within the limited space as a cluster of gravitational and magnetic attractions. And so it is a group of local clusters within a greater space known as universe defined by measurement. It is believed that these clusters and gases or local measured spaces belong to a larger natural Khumbarat Chitra. And in turn the next cluster of galaxies within their locality are part of a larger grouping and so on to infinity, similar to pixels for the larger Khumbarat Chitra drawn in the universe. This can be illustrated by a Gayatri Ma Santok Raghav Sutar, Babshakar Kilona, toys of royal imperial Hindu Khumbars that lived in fortresses, citadels and castles, where a smaller doll is encapsulated by a larger one and so on to illustrate the concept of the universe. This is mathematically known as part of the Bhagwati Pushpaben Bhagwanji Chitroda P function. Tapika illustration of Tepla, where smaller cooking pots fit into a larger ones, creating a complete set of universal vision scope logic. This function has traditionally been taught by Indian Hindu Khumbar parents to their children to symbolize the concept of the infinite size of the universe. Brahma. Formation of the galaxy. The formation of galaxies happens on a constant basis through collapsing and expansion of vast attracted energy masses in a time cycle known as Mahachakra. The two main processes occur where collapse or pralay creates a black hole and expansion creates the Big Bang theory known as Parajay. Former galaxies collapses under gravitational pressure and form energy leaks like tornadoes, creating a funnel known as a wormhole, sucking everything local into it within its gravitational attraction range. Once the collapse produces the wormhole funnel, the local galaxy crushes itself and travels through it. The gravitational forces increase pressures at the tip or the end energy point of funnel with congestion build-up and then create an explosion of release. At this point, elements expand out of the funnel, creating a new galaxy. The exit point is known as Mahakumbh. Spiral galaxy expansions are created from energy levels acquired at the crushing stage of the collapse, leading through to the funnel in perfect gravitational magnetic streams, dispersing at the exit point and then having the matter follow through to create the spiral. This process repeats itself many times until the energy of the galaxy dissipates. The P function Tapika of the crushing and the energy stream shapes created are known as Hanju Prabhav. The cycle of expansion and contraction or Parajay and Pralay of the eternal life cycle of a galaxy can be destroyed if an external energy source, for example another galaxy, collides and dissipates energy through smaller explosions known as Trajay, releasing dust clouds and gases as energy, losing the net concentration of energy within a non-uniform manner, thus eliminating the central gravitational core for the galaxy, preventing central collapse into a black hole. The Trajay often produces spectacular dust and gas clouds that resemble Khumbarat Chitra, reflecting images of Indian Hindu Khumbar Bhagwans. These in turn are the aspects of how Bhagwan Om Chitroda decided to create various Khumbarat Chitra within the Milky Way galaxy known as Sudarshan Khumb for its shape and defined by its Yoy coordinates. Brahma. The formation of the solar system. The principles of the universe are governed by what is created and its transformation and then its destruction. In the same way, the Indian Hindu Khumbars believe that the solar system with planets in any galaxy are created by a set of principles that work throughout the universe. The expansion of the galaxy creates vast clusters of stars that fuse together as molten rock and metals then collide with each other and become energy radiating masses. These clusters become suns or stars known as Suryamandal, and as they cool down they become orbiting planets if there is a larger mass attracted through gravity. The Indian Hindu Khumbar definition and word for gravity is Tvo Akarshan, known as its P function Topeka as Stavri Akarshan, decoded by Atar Codex as Ritav. This is symbolized in Indian Gujarati Hindu food making as Stavri, that is hot plate for making rotali, where the rotali symbolizes star maps with its appearance. Anti-gravity is known as Tvokarshan. When the mass of the galaxy continues to spiral out of the central wormhole exit point, suns or hot molten masses are produced that excrete solar flares. The solar flares take shape as molten fire spheres known as Suryamukhi. The force of the emitted solar flare creates the initial axis spin of the cooling new planets, and also the fast axis spin can shed smaller hot flares that turn into moons or asteroids. As the galaxy is still expanding, greater distance and separation occurs with a total contained energy field for the galaxy, creating huge magnetic and gravitational forces, rendering the shape of the planets over time as spheres. This process is called Gol Samprabhavik. When the surface of the sun cools, it begins to expel less solar flares and the local solar system starts taking shape. Brahma. Planet and moon formation. The solar flares are not emitted in unison, so they form larger entities and also smaller entities. The larger entities of the molten solar flares usually form planets, and the smaller entities of the molten substance usually form moons and other smaller rock substances that were detached from their original source within a proximity. As they cool, magnetism is produced from the central core of the planets that attract the smaller entity, and their orbit around the larger entity starts to take place, known as Prakarshan Chakra. The axis spin of the planets and moon is made from the initial creation stage from the solar flares, with the expansion of the galaxy according to mass, and also the residual energy from other stars that create impulses known as solar winds. As the galaxy expands, so does the solar system, slowing the axis spin and eventually halting, leading the planets to drift into each other or another part of the solar system. Brahma. Terraform. This is known as the Treta period of time, where the planet starts cooling and forming its crust on the surface of the mantle region. During this process there is Trahi, where the tectonic plates are unstable and the surface of the planet is frequent with volcanic eruptions. As this happens, there are various gases that are released from the surface and rise to form the atmosphere. When they cool, they create Akash or layered particles of various ranges at different temperatures. This forms a dome around the planet and protects the surface from harmful radiation emitted by the sun, and provides resistance and friction to destroy asteroids, comets and other debris crashing on the planet. During this phase of planet formation, mountain ranges, ridges, canyons and great plateaus are formed, defining the contours of the planet and its natural surface textured shape, giving it characteristics known as Thriti. Brahma. Khumbarat Chitra formation. The process of Thriti gives way and naturally starts making Prakriti part of P function, adding the atmosphere and weather systems to the planet. Before this stage, a summary of megalithic Indian Hindu Khumbarat Chitra was created by Bhagwan Chitroda in all directions of the planet's surface, creating the unwanted rock and dust from the carvings into smaller substances and eventually becoming earth, soil or mud. For example, you will notice that from the first stage of when the Indian Hindu Khumbar race first began to create intelligent life, the world map was upside down and the first Indian Hindu Khumbarat Chitra was drawn on India. This fact remains the truth all over the world and has valid translations within Indian Hindu mandirs and languages. The Indian Hindu Khumbarat Chitra exists from the central point in India, Chitroda, and directions of the pictures exist in all 24 directions covering the surface of the world with mathematically calculated angles as summarized by the Indian flag, creating 330 million different megalithic Khumbarat Chitra. This method was created by Bhagwan Mangaldev Chitroda and I have discovered it, named it to Shamsthai. It is also celebrated by the Bhagwan Ashok Chitroda Chakra located at the center of the Indian national flag. Brahma. Indian Hindu Khumbar growth. The expansion of the Indian Hindu Khumbar Kingdom grew as an imperial senate with the Bhagwan Om Chitroda and his 99 followers. This imperial senate was called Pure 100 and means pure 100. The village once citadel called Chitroda located in India, Gujarat was chosen as the first point of the entire planet. The Indian Hindu Khumbar Kingdom of the Bhagwan Chitroda Devs and Bhagwan Chitroda, including the kingdom dynasty of Bhagwan Vishnu, Bhagwan Brahma, and Bhagwan Mahadev etc. are all Chitroda by surname and physical identity through one correct eldest son's lineage of my own. The current inhabitants of Chitroda are not the original inhabitants or connected to its ancient history as the emperors and kings continued to build and develop the world. Today Chitroda is known by archaeologists as the central point of the Harappan Empire. However, it is also known to the public of India as part of Dwarkadish. The directions of Dwarka as shown with the Bhagwan Ashok Chitroda Chakra illustrated on the Indian national flag. It is in these directions that the Indian Hindu Khumbar Kingdom established realms and Khumbarat Chitra and installed education systems. Brahma. Bhagwan Mangaldev Chitroda Mapping System. Bhagwan Mangaldev Chitroda Shamshtha. Reintroduced by Bhagwan Ashok Chitroda as a emblem. 360-degree sphere with 15-degree separation creating 24 sections of a sphere. 25th point of the Bhagwan Mangaldev Chitroda is located at the center. Symbolized on the Indian national flag. Discovered by myself in 13th of August 1986 with my father Bhagwanji Mepa Chitroda. Brahma. Indian Hindu Khumbar Kingdom growth. The first Earth planet kingdom started from Chitroda, India with precise calculated hubs and host kingdoms as fortresses, castles, citadels and other megalithic structures and buildings that were made to define the Indian Hindu Khumbarat Chitra covering the entire surface of the planet. There was no other human population on the planet at the time. In order to preserve the stories and prophecy based on mathematical calculations, some of these calculations are held by mandirs in India. They are known as Mataji, meaning Matha of the Atar. They are not part of goddess worship as they are ancient educational centers. Population and kingdom growth progressed with calculated measured logic created by Bhagwan Mangaldev Chitroda, where from the central point of Chitroda scales in circles were drawn on the sphere of the planet with circumferences of 100 miles for the first Indian Hindu Khumbar Chitroda kingdom of pure saw. Then the next boundary of 786 miles, then 1786 miles, then 2786 miles, then 3786 and so on until the last circumference point was drawn at a distance of 13,786 miles away from Chitroda. This formula has been found by myself and I have named it the Bhagwan Mangaldev Chitroda Rekha. Brahma. Bhagwan Mangaldev Chitroda Mapping System. Bhagwan Mangaldev Chitroda Rekha. Kingdom expansion tool to promote growth of population and map planet's diameter and radius. Central point Chitroda, Gujarat, India. The Rekha expands until the maximum diameter or radius is reached, then circumference of Rekha starts to contract, mapping the other side of the sphere. First kingdom circumference of Chitroda 100 miles. Radial circumferential distance measurements from Chitroda, India, 786 miles, 1786 miles, 2786 miles, 3786 miles, 4786 miles, 5786 miles, 6786 miles, 7,786 miles, 8,786 miles, 9,786 miles, 10,786 miles, 11,786 miles, 12,786 miles and 13,786 miles. Discovered by myself in 13th of August 1986 with my father Bhagwanji Mepa Chitroda. Brahma. Bhagwan Mangaldev Chitroda Mapping System. Bhagwan Mangaldev Chitroda Dhar Chitra Map. Atar calculation of Dharoda India. Dharoda Chitra implies Dhar Chitra Uda. The quadrants on map are called Dharoda. Quadrants and mantra filed during the Tridata age at Dharoda, Gujarat, India. Discovered by myself in 13th of August 1986 with my father Bhagwanji Mepa Chitroda. Brahma. Indian Hindu Khumbar George mapping coordinates. The Indian Hindu Khumbar Kingdom exists in every country and planet in the solar system and has significant physical mapped indications known as George coordinates called J, noted in numbers and understood without a translation. George coordinates are the origin of the geo-coordinate system and I am the original descendant and King George VIII of the Atar Majug as summarized in religious scriptures. The Dharchitra methodology registers quadrants known as Dharoda on the surface of the point required on a sphere. The methodology enables the Dharoda system to function like a mesh to map any quadrant on the sphere or planet and also any level of a sphere in a core, middle core, outer core etc. The Shamshtha lines complete the circumference of the sphere or shape at -180 degrees to 0 to 180 degrees in horizontal, vertical and more depending on the angle from the source of the origination point to the target or location on the sphere or planet creating George coordinates. Thus Dharoda quadrants or areas are created when the Rekha and Shamshtha are drawn on the mapping area of the sphere or shape that define the entire concept of spherical mapping. The method can also provide mapping for non-spherical objects and calculate the area of the object in question to its core defined in systematic measurements. The Rekha, Shamshtha and Dharoda create a map known as Dharchitra. The coordinates can be mapped to an infinite level to determine the size and location of the object. The Indian Hindu Khumbar mathematical function of log x abbreviates large numbers to illustrate miles, kilometers, meters, centimeters, millimeters, even to atomic level to justify location and area mapping. The pinpoint of the location within the mapped area is known as the Vajresh and functions as the most central point of the object in 2D or 3D to be located or to be created as a starting point of a kingdom. Please note that George is the singular entity of Jug implies Yug or age. Brahma. Universe Quadrant George Mapping. The coordinate George points are made from the x and y points meeting within the Dharoda from its angle away from the center. The Rekha and Shamshtha crossover points are known as meridians or Vishesh, important/great, Vajresh points. The set of George coordinates increase in number size and decimal points to pinpoint the location and add at a decoding to recite the story of Bhagwan Om Chitroda or a section of it. The Atar Codex translates the entire George coordinates as part of the Om Maharti collection. Likewise, there are many other mathematical symbols that also have the same infinite Atar coding that are not yet discovered from the past Indian Hindu Khumbar kingdoms. The Z coordinate is introduced for three-dimensional plotting and together the X, Y and Z create nakshatra. This enables the coordinates to be calculated inside or outside of a sphere, planet or object. For example, the coordinates of a location within the inner core of the planet can be calculated and become George coordinates, and the location of a spaceship far away in space can also be calculated and become George coordinates. The Indian Hindu Khumbar Kingdom has two defining points to Indian Hindu Khumbar culture, as everything we see physically is known as non-spiritual and everything that we cannot see physically is known as spiritual unless defined. Hence, when infinite numbers and scales are used for increasing sizes and decreasing sizes to infinity or their limit, technology must catch up to visually provide the aid to see them, hence spiritual to non-spiritual. For example, atoms decreasing in size to protons, neutrons, electrons and further still to quarks and neutrinos can be seen with microscopes and electromagnetic spectrometers etc., or the solar system expanding to galaxy and beyond can seen by telescopes and radiation noise detection devices. There are various Indian Hindu Khumbar Mataji Artis, mathematical consolidation mantras, not female deity worship, that celebrate this planetary mapping and location system, and each location is pinpointed with a symbol known as Jayesh. Brahma. Bhagwan Mangaldev Chitroda measuring system. The symbol of George positioning central to the location is called Vajresh. The points where the Shamshtha and Rekha cross are known as Mahavajresh points. The pinpoint symbol of location for coordinate symbol represented by a circle/sphere for 2D/3D and plus sign. The circle represents the Rekha around the object with total encapsulation on 2D scope and also creates the same effect in 3D. The plus creates the most central point for the positioning of the object in 2D mapping or 3D mapping with the central point at its core to give the remaining parts of the object George coordinates. I created this method with my father Bhagwanji Mepa Chitroda in the 13th of August 1986. Brahma. Bhagwan Mangaldev Chitroda measuring system. The nakshatra is a location defining system giving rise to locations. There are three principal trajectories noted as X, Y and Z, each with plus and numbers from the central point. The diagram shows the trajectory lines with expanding circles to illustrate the expansion of a dimensional sphere and the ability to calculate precise coordinates. The outer lines from the core are hypothetical area. For example, the core could represent our solar system or galaxy, with the expansion circles representing the area around the core as to pinpoint location or George coordinates. The nakshatra acts as expansion to the Vajresh at different sizes and magnitudes to calculate in 3D. When the magnitude or size of the area increases to map the entire universe from a central location, the vertical Z line becomes a shivling carrying on forever, and the horizontal plane adds more points other than X and Y to represent every degree, even to decimal points of the complete 360 degrees circumference expansion. It can be said that Bhagwan Om Chitroda arrived to the galaxy when it first emerged from the exit point of the wormhole from an angle of g, pi, or the degrees of 3.14, expanding forever. As the further you get from the Vajresh, the greater the angle direction becomes in decimal points. The number continues forever until a source point is located, for example planet, and from there it continues again until the next source point is located, producing the Indian Hindu Khumbar Royal Imperial Route, creating the universe's Indian Hindu Khumbarat Chitra. The routes are time marked upon special galaxy and star alignments to calculate the stating angle. The route continues until it reaches the starting point where the G number starts repeating itself in the same sequence. I discovered this method with my father Bhagwanji Mepa Chitroda in the 13th of August 1986. Brahma. Royal Imperial Routing. The Indian Hindu Khumbar Kingdom created every town, village, city on the planet and named it from the scriptures of Bhagwan Om Chitroda. This was done by a specific method using the Atar Codex. The entire planet, villages, towns, cities etc. were named from the points Chitrod for Royal Imperial, Chittaranjan for education and Shiroda for business. The magnificent aspect of the Bhagwan Mangaldev Chitroda map system is that every village, town, city, etc. follow the NAP code for distances to be translated into Atar Codex, providing the history summary of its creation and use by the Indian Hindu Khumbar Kingdom. The Indian Hindu Khumbar Kingdom started the royal imperial route by starting at Chitroda, India, creating kingdoms everywhere in accordance with the Atar Codex throughout time to return to the source point of Chitroda, India after completion. This entire naming system was completed by my ancestral Bhagwan Ram Chitroda kingdom during the Kalpa age. Every name, town, village, city, etc. has a specific NAP translation to the 3 source points and other towns that are named in the story sequence that has summaries of the Indian Hindu Khumbar Kingdom royal imperial route that produce chapters in many great religious and history textbooks. Brahma. Bhagwan Mangal Dev Chitroda measuring system. The Bhagwan Mangal Dev Chitroda NAP. The distances between 2 or more places in numbers translated by Atar Codex. The picture shows 707 miles as a NAP in miles and can be translated into Atar Codex along with the starting town name and destination town name. Atar Codex translation of 707 equals Sat Suniye Sat equals Katha Atar Yo, and the first Tridata age Atar Codex is the proper way to interpret the direct horizontal mirror image equals Jur Jor J Om J. Origination source points to decode town names by NAP numbers into Atar translation are Chitroda, Chittaranjan and Shiroda as the only valid starting and ending points of the NAP. Interval chapter points to specific places can be found using hidden NAP number mirror images in 4 directions. Infinite distance method from smaller to larger miles, kilometers, meters, centimeters, millimeters, nanometers, etc. This is my own discovery and notes all valid entities for measuring distances that provide an Atar Codex translation from town names to distances in numbers. I discovered this method with my father on the 13th of August 1986. Brahma. Number decoding using Atar Codex. There are in principle 8 decodings from my Atar Codex for every number in every language. One with the number and then rotating it 90 degrees until it reaches the starting point, circling a full 360 degrees, obtaining 4 symbols including the first number known as Atar Codex Kathanav, Sur, Suniye. The second method is called Atar Codex Tridata Nav Sur Suniye and is older, where the number is decoded using a horizontal mirror image of the character. For example, 7 becomes J. The same principle applies where the decoded character is rotated 90 degrees to obtain the other 3 characters, 4 in total. The third method is called Atar Codex Jayesh Punch, decoding the characters using the same methods at 45 degrees on both Atar codexes, producing 16 characters in total and resulting to the creation of all the alphabets. These 3 sets of Atar Codex are my own creation and represent my own representation of formula and decryption only. Chitrodhari Samshthaik Jeev Rekha